Hello, and welcome to part, whatever the hell part this is, of this terribly unexciting Zelda 2 playthrough. My name is Carlos, aka Axelhander, aka Specs, aka Handspan, lots of aliases. Now, today, we are going to go through Maze Island Palace, which is really annoying. Maze Island Palace is, much like the island it is on, a maze. One of the few palaces in this game that actually thematically matches its geographic location somewhat. These enemies are Wizrobes. They have a very different appearance from the Black Mage-esque Wizrobes of, say, Link's Awakening or Zelda III, but Wizrobes regardless they are. They teleport about, throw little shockwaves at you, and you need to use the reflect magic to bounce back at them. There is no other way to defeat them. Trying will only get you hurt. Here, I'm going to encounter some Stalfos Knights. I want to goad out of that hole so I can get the sweet, sweet experience. And I get my ass hurt for my efforts. Stalfos Knights, the blue ones, are either really irritating or really docile, depending on how frequently they end up down thrusting. They down thrust at random as far as I know. But regardless, I defeat those two with no trouble, and now we move on. This is the first palace that has pits in it. Pits do not insta-kill you, they do send you down a floor, although in one instance in the 6th palace there's a pit that repeatedly loops. So this pit here that I'm about to approach, I need to get past. And I do that with fairy magic. I was a little worried you can make the jump, but I was a little worried I wasn't going to, so I decided to fly over it. Those blue shredder motherfuckers are still around and as irritating as ever. Those flames do hurt, and there's no way to make them go away that I know of. So, of course, blue shredder motherfucker and his boomerang mace manages to get a hit on me, but no worries. We will proceed onward, grab this key, and get a nice red magic vial, which I'll use to cast life and jump to make the return trip a little less scary. Regardless, I think it's here that I end up having to save myself a fairy. Let's see here. Taking a time to jump is somewhat difficult, and of course he threw his mace in midair. I was going to die there, but save myself a fairy. That's something you can do yourself from the comfort of your own home if you find you are falling into a lava pit and don't want to die. I just didn't want to deal with this guy and his nonsense maces, so I cast Reflector so I could block them. He only throws them high. He still manages to get a hit on me with his random jumping pattern. Really, really irritating enemies, these blue guys. Regardless, gonna fall in this pit and go to the floor below. And head right. Get through the tin suit here and the anti-fairy. And what did I say about these irritating guys just littering this damn dungeon? Now, I've been told that this game, there's not a lot of variance in terrain in it, and it's one unfortunate reality of Zelda 2 that is an unfortunate reality. There is very little difference in terrain and textures and whatnot. The palace is varied up a little bit, but most caves look like every other cave, most swamps like every other swamp, and most plains like every other plain. Here, I sat here for a second thinking, should I get another 1,000 experience to try to get a life? But I decided against it, thinking a good offense will be the best defense. But yeah, not too much variance. I will say that this palace is suitably dark with its blue and dark blue color scheme. I was hoping there was going to be a magic vial in that statue, but there was not. And this blue iron knuckle is not going to leave me much room for error, as I can only take one hit. But yeah, that is one thing that... Oh wow, that hit happened right away. I forgot I cast jump there. Whatever. One thing that sucks is neither Zelda 1 nor Zelda 2 got a Super Mario All-Stars-esque Super Mario All-Stars compilation. When Super Mario All-Stars originally came out, I think a lot of people speculated there would be one for Zelda. There never was. And it's kind of puzzling, because I would have thought that a Zelda 1 and 2 with 16-bit graphics, but the same, the same gameplay that people liked would probably sell well, but Nintendo obviously disagrees, and they just keep pumping out Zeldas that are not Zelda 1 and 2 remade. But yeah, in such a remake, it would be nice to see some varying textures used in this game. Although I would imagine a Zelda 2 remake could probably do a lot more than just reskin this game. There are probably some improvements to be made that I'm noticing, that I did notice rather, as I played through this game again. I didn't remember if there was something to the right, so I head that way. These floating dragon heads do dock experience from me, but I do want to get rid of them so that I don't have to deal with them as frequently. They don't infinitely respawn, though they do respawn in set places. And it's about here that I start to realize just what jumping pattern I need to beat Shredder here. Shredder, with his mace, is well known for that. That mace nearly fucking killed me. I did not know they boomeranged again, and I nearly died there, because I don't think I would have had enough magic for a fairy cast, or maybe I would have had just enough. Here this anti-fairy comes up. I think I have a few failed attempts at trying to kill him. Obviously the easiest way is just to repeatedly bounce down thrust them, but I think I give up, get that key, and just move on. So, even though this palace is a maze, it's not terribly huge, and once you get the treasure, which I did, I got the flute. I probably should have talked about the flute. The flute is used in 2 key places to open the way forward, basically, and I'll talk about them when I get to them, but it is a necessary item to complete the game. I'm on crack. The flute is from the next palace. The item here is the boots that let me walk on certain bodies of water. The flute will come from the next palace. So even though this palace is a bit of a maze, when you get all the keys and whatnot, it's not too difficult to actually leave, and there's actually a pretty direct beeline from the entrance to the boss, which I use. I actually exit this palace partway through because I need to refill my magic, because in order to beat the boss I need reflect magic, and I did not have enough magic at the time and didn't really want to grind enemies for it. So I decided to head back to town. The boots make traveling through Maze Island a lot easier because you can just walk on the river that intersects it. Now if you recall, back in part 4 or 5, I talk about a key in a very similar situation in Palace 3, and I'm going to show you now what I should have done to get that key, because the same solution applies here. You don't just drill all the way down and then dig your way out. You make a path in that will let you escape easily afterwards. So like this, I'm able to get the key and immediately exit. And it makes dealing with the floating tiger panther head things much more tolerable because you don't have to deal with them for nearly as long. So I believe that's the last key I really need in this dungeon. With the boots obtained, I think I can move on from here. This is just scenery, you can't interact with those anti-fairies at all, and that place to the right was where I walked before when I started this whole thing. This room was with all the Stalfos, so I'm backtracking here. I forgot if I sped up the video or not. No, I guess I did not. So from here, my next course of action is to go left, and that will eventually lead to the boss. I'm kind of desperate for some magic right now, because I need the reflect spell to beat the boss, but there's also some sweet experience to get from the whiz robes along the way, and I would like to cast reflect to get that experience. So here, I get a nice present from that red iron knuckle, a red magic bottle to refill my magic all the way. I then cast jump and life. And I'm not sure what to talk about now. So the anti-fairies, or bubbles, can sometimes get stuck on the scenery, as you saw there. It can make them somewhat difficult to deal with, but I'm just going to start killing this one for experience and to get them out of the way. With a level 6 sword, it starts to be really less tedious to kill them. They start to take a much more manageable number of hits. At level 8, I think they only need 11 hits to kill, unless you're dealing with the ones in the final dungeon. This motherfucker is so annoying. I was gonna down thrust him, and that stupid mace still hit me. And I stopped there because I was about to wind up and huck the fucking controller at the fucking monitor, at that fucking mace, boomerang and it hit me in the fucking face. But I'm not bitter at all. This room, I think, is a dead end. But regardless, it has a delicious pea bag in it. I'm gonna dig my way through, and I debated just digging through to the left to see what else there was, because I didn't quite remember the layout of this palace. But I go back up, and I try to actually beat this guy a little more tactically than before. And those maces, I swear to God, even just rewatching this playthrough, so irritating. Boomerang back and forth unpredictably. Please pardon that ringing you're hearing. That's telephone ringing. Someone else has answered it. Yes, thank you, someone else in the house I live in. Shoutouts to two housemates. So I didn't deal with the shredder guy on the left, because why would you want to? There's no point. I got my reward for that room, and now it's time to move on. So down here... What is down here? I recall you have to go left to fight the boss, and I think there's something to the right, and I believe it's a key. Nope, it's not a key, because that door opened quite nicely. Well, we're probably going to go find out, because I think that's where I'm headed. By the way, if it seems like I'm not recalling everything in this playthrough, it's... there was a bit of time between when I got this video up in iMovie and when I'm laying down the audio track in Audacity. Shoutouts to iMovie and Audacity for making this kind of shit real easy to deal with. And yes, there is another key in this direction. That would have been a death, because I would not have had enough for a fairy spell if I had not tapped down at the last second to attack that dragon head. Fortunately, reactions. Grab this key, go for a magic bottle. It wasn't a magic bottle this time, it was a red iron knuckle. He did not drop a magic bottle for me. He gave me 100 experience, which is nice, but at this point I really wanted a magic bottle drop so that I wouldn't have to leave the dungeon. That would not be the case. 5 quick shots, kill the dragon head, and I'm gonna head back to the left. So this was a bad cast. I should have saved that reflect for the boss, but the sweet juicy experience was just calling my name. Some sweet juicy experience I actually lost a bit of because that tin suit managed to hit me. I'm not sure what hit me there though. Kill the tin suit, and I want the whiz robe to spawn so that I can get 100 experience for killing it. Tin suits are easy to deal with if you just jump above them while down thrusting. They'll hit the bottom of your sword. This path leads to the boss. I decide to go for it, but I'm not going to go all the way there. I was really upset that that magic bottle spawned where it did, with no way for me to get to it. The last keyhole, and proceed forward. Do Stalfos Knight up in a perch where he can try to down thrust me very dramatically. The red ones can do it too, but only if they fall off a ledge. They won't actually leap up off the ground. I did not have enough to get that pea bag, so I leave it for now and move on. And here, this is the last hallway, I believe, between me and the Maze Island Palace boss Karok, but I'm not going to fight him in this part. Proceed forward, fight another red iron knuckle, and proceed forward. So knowing that I need magic, I backtrack, because you can't damage Karok any other way. So you'll pardon me as I backtrack, and I was trying to grind some enemies to try to get some magic to drop, but I eventually decide to just say fuck it and head out of the palace. Very quick and easy beeline. As you can see, not very many screens between the entrance and Karok once you get all the keys and the boots. The boots let me walk on certain water tiles, including this river, making getting to and from the Maze Island Palace very easy indeed. One thing I should have done here is, instead of going back to Darunia, I should have went to the town where I got the fire spell, because some of the water tiles there, I can walk on them and I don't have to go through that cave. But I was silly, and I totally didn't do that. So back to Darunia, refill my life and magic, and head back out here. Now, I went back to Darunia to heal everything up, so I wouldn't have to waste a life to do it. And then this happened. Holy crap. I turned into a tornado of teeth and fingernails and destroyed everything in my path. It was so infuriating. Because in the palace, and you're not privy to this, but I was playing through, my cousin was watching me, and she was like, why don't you just die to get your life and magic back? Or I said that, and the other said, well, don't be a chump, just go heal back in town. I think I wanted to die to get my life and magic back, and she convinced me otherwise. So I go to town, do that, and all my effort was for naught, as I fell into the dumbest little pit of water that by no rights should have killed me. Anywho, see you next time.